This podcast is sponsored by Action Steel.
If you make the time, efficiencies come. If you're rushing around and always trying and hurry to get to the next job, you find things break, things happen, things go wrong, things get missed, and that's when you lose time and then you're further behind. Where if you've got a good plan in place and it's organised and safe, you'll find machines are just constantly rolling at a steady speed all day.
Hello and welcome back to Shared Ag Solutions by BCG. I'm Janine Batters and today we're going to be speaking with Warakirri Cropping Manager Jono Robinson about safety first on farm. So welcome, Jono.
Thanks, Janine.
Thanks so much for being here, especially because you said you're starting harvest this week. So I really do appreciate you being here. Just for our listeners, can you give an overview of who you are and what you're about?
Yes, you said my name is Jono Robinson, the farm manager at Wimmera for Warakirri Cropping. We're situated between Donald and Warracknabeal in the Wimmera. We're cropping 14,000 hectares with a full-time staff of about 9. Wheat, barley, canola and lentils are the main crops we grow.
And why are you in agriculture?
I grew up farming my whole life. I grew up in New Zealand, born in New Zealand, grew up dairy farming, then moved into West Australia in the early 2000s. And then in about 2018, my wife and family decided we'd move over to Victoria just to get a bit closer to home. And yeah, it's been a great shift.
Now, so today we're talking about safety. Why are you so big on safety at Warakirri?
For me personally, it's a very simple one. Just get home safe. I don't want to see any of my colleagues, my friends not make it home or go home injured. So it's just getting people home safe.
And it seems so obvious. It seems so simple, but I feel like there's so many accidents that happen on farms. I think we're 8 times more likely to have a fatality than a generally employed population.
Yeah, I think agriculture has more fatalities than the next 3 industries below added together.
While you say it's simple, get everyone safe, obviously there's more to be done. You say that, so get everyone home safely. How do you put that into practice?
It's biggest one's a culture, setting the culture, making sure everyone has that drive to get each other home safe and look after each other. And it starts at the top. With Warakirri, we're lucky we've got a very supportive, safety-driven head office and corporate team, and it flows all the way down through the company. And then on farm, it just starts at me. If I'm not doing it, staff aren't going to do it, and no one's going to do it. So yeah, you got to practice what you preach and just do it. And it's not just about the people as well, the machines. If you're looking after your machines, they're in better condition. So it has a flow-on effect through all the other elements of the farm.
The culture, get the culture right, safety, how do you actually do it? I know you say lead by example, but...
It takes a team effort. I said it starts with myself, but doing the inductions, teaching the people how to use the gear, not just rushing them out, throwing them in a machine and saying get into it, actually taking that time to run them through, show them how to use it properly, how to use it to your standard, your way. Every farmer still does that a lot of the time. They all have the way they like their gear run, but there's documenting it as well when we're finished, and that's probably one thing we do more than the family farmers. We just document what we do.
How do you do that?
We have an app, so it's all done through an app. There's a lot of apps out there now for farm safety and helping to record the things you're doing, the maintenances and the inductions and all of that. So yeah, we've got one company we use.
What do you use?
It's called Lucidity, so it specialises in corporate ag.
And what are some of the other ones?
Safe Farms. Then there's people around like John Darcy and the VFF that are driving into that space.
So we can link to some of those in the show notes. So what does an induction and training look like at Warakirri?
For me, it's got to be done straight away when they first step foot on the farm. It sets that impression from the get-go that it's not a rough show. We've got a high standard and we want to adhere to. If you go and throw them into another job and say, we'll get back to that safety a bit later, you've just given them the impression work comes first and safety second, where if you put that safety first and you do sit down with them, show your expectations, run through your SWPs of the machines they're going to be using or the jobs they're going to be doing, and then go out to the machine and show them how to use it, yeah, it really sets the standard high from day one.
What are SWPs?
Safe work procedures, also known, some people call them SWIMs, safe work methods.
Okay, so if I was going to drive a tractor for sowing, you'd sit me down, run through the expectations, and then take me out to the machine, go over everything, and then would you sit on there with me?
Yeah, definitely. Yep, we'd sit there until we feel you competent and then even revisit it. Like you might spend 3 or 4 hours with that person, think they're going well, they're competent, but then I always like to revisit a couple of days later just to check that no bad habits have been picked up, or there's a lot to take in that first initial induction with any bit of gear, and sometimes it's just information overload. So to go back and revisit it with someone regularly, it does help. They've picked up the basics on day one, but to go back and start refining, and they find they get better at the job, more efficient when you go back and visit them the second and third time.
That's such a good point. I think you can only take in so much at a time, particularly if you're new at a job and you're probably already nervous. And also probably would allow them to come back with you for questions about things as well. Do you find that within your culture you allow questions? Because I think sometimes it can be quite scary to say, what are SWPs?
In our toolbox meetings, we have that open atmosphere and culture where anyone can ask any question. You're definitely not put down for asking those questions. Anyone in the team is always willing to accept a question from anyone. So we quite often will match junior and experienced staff with senior staff, and the senior guys are always there to help them. When you've got a safe culture and someone's doing the job safely, they start doing it efficiently and they're doing it to a higher standard. They're looking after your machines better, so the machines are breaking down less, so you're getting more production overall and getting the job done quicker overall.
It's just really important, I think. I just wanted to emphasise that, just being able to ask a question, because if someone feels uncomfortable, then that's probably when something could happen. You talked about the toolbox meeting. Can you tell me more about those?
Yeah, so we usually run a weekly toolbox meeting on a Monday morning. It gives people a chance to debrief what issues they had the week before. If they'd picked up any issues with machines, they can share them with the group, training that needs to be done, and outline the week coming so everyone knows who's going where, what's getting done, and who they're reporting to. When you've got a large team of staff, you don't want everyone trying to ring the same person, so we sort of break off into teams and they all know who's their team leader.
It's really just another meeting, but you've added in the farm safety to it.
Yes, yeah, it all flows from farm safety, yeah.
Tell me some of the other things that you do. So you have a culture where people can ask questions and you're showing them from the get-go, this is what we expect, this is how to do things. So that's part of the induction. What else? So
a big part of it is also maintenance inspections, so daily pre-starts, monthly inspections. That helps keep machinery to the acceptable level we want it at. So the operator in the morning, they go into the app, they'll open the piece of equipment they're driving, they'll go through and check the oils, check the waters, check the fluids, and make sure tyres, wheel nuts, all the maintenance jobs, PDOs, that sort of stuff is all to a high standard.
So that's part of the pre-start. How long does that take?
For a new operator, it might take 10, 15 minutes, but after they've been doing it for 3 or 4 days, they know what they're looking for, and that's probably a 5 to 10 minute job, depending on the machine and how much. Then we have the monthly inspection takes a bit longer. That goes a little bit more in depth. We check a few things like first aid kits and fire extinguishers, which don't need to be done every day, but they get done monthly. It all gets logged in the app. We do up to sometimes 80 to 100 inspections a month, but they only take a couple of minutes, some of them.
Do you find that sometimes they get inspected but it doesn't actually, the water might not get filled up or the oil? Do you ever find that?
Yeah, you got to be careful of having what we call a tick and flick culture. So that's a challenge, especially with new staff. They can just tick and flick and get the job done and jump in the cab. But it also comes out at the end of the day if they're driving that machine regularly every day for a long period of time and someone notices there's something wrong with it, there's no one else there to blame themselves, so that they've got that ownership over that machine. They want it to look good. They want it to be well checked and running maintenance free. So
kind of like a truckie likes to clean their truck.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, yep.
So that's the culture that you're setting on your farm. But what about if it's really busy and I'm doing this checklist and something's not quite right, but I've really got to get going, Jono? Compliant chemical storage sheds are important infrastructure for cropping enterprises from a safety point of view and for sustainability certification. BCG Gold sponsors Action, the Big Shed People, have developed a range of standard chemical shed designs to help you meet these requirements. Designs include details such as lock-up storage areas, bunded concrete floors, ventilation and sprayer bays. Head to actionsteel.com.au to learn more about the designs, sizes and prices.
There's means to report it if it's, say the machine's still operable, but as you said, it might need the top up of hydraulic oil, but it's not completely flat. We use WhatsApp communication. They can put a post up saying, hey, can someone bring me out some oil? Someone bring me some water? And everyone's around to help. Because at the end of the day, if that machine's not moving, we all get behind in the job. So we all pitch in to help when needed.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. What are some of the other safety policies that you have?
We have a critical controls, and we have about 7 items that we class as high risk. And we have critical controls around those. Things like confined space, working at heights, working in isolation, chemicals, vapours, heavy machinery and light vehicles. And the things that can really, when things go wrong, can hurt us big time.
Can you talk me through some of those? So heights, what are your rules around heights?
It's a no-go unless you've got the appropriate qualification and the appropriate equipment to do the job. So for working at heights, harnessing 2 people on site. We also do a permit in our app just to check that we have checked all that stuff, that the harness is not out of date, it hasn't had a mouse chew through one of the straps, and we've got 2 people there that are both qualified to do it.
What about the vapours?
And that's chemical vapes, so mixing chemicals, making sure everyone's got appropriate face protection and masks just for whatever the chemical requires.
And confined spaces?
Same as working at heights, there's a permit that gets done first, and then you have the qualified people there, minimum 2, the appropriate harnessing, and we've got a recovery kit as well.
What about working in isolation? Because that's what farmers are doing a lot of the time.
Yeah, it is very much, and we do it every day, but it's simple as an app. We've got WhatsApp we use, and just checking in with people. It can be a thumbs up. If you've been out for 3 or 4 hours, just a phone call or a text to someone just to see how you're going. They've seen you guys that are in charge of a team. That's their role. If they know that they've got someone working by themselves under them, they just check in with them every 3 or 4 hours.
So they definitely do that.
Yeah. You bring in to see how the job's going anyway, to see whether they need a hand or whatever, if they're getting behind at the end of the day, whether you want to duck out and help them to get them finished.
It's good communication. It probably also just makes the worker feel like you care too, I suppose.
It makes them feel part of the team. Nothing worse when you're stuck out by yourself, working all day by yourself, and no one's talked to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, tell me, coming into harvest, Jono, how are you going to manage fatigue?
So we have a fatigue management policy that we use just to keep it simple. It's a 14-hour day, 6-day work week. So everyone gets 1 day off a week and 8 hours off a day. And then every 3rd week we have a 2-day break.
Okay, so they can work 14-hour days?
Yes, 14-hour days, 6 days straight, and then 1 day off.
So that works during harvest?
Yes, it does. It means we have a few more staff because of it. So we have an extra 1 or 2 to cover. We run a rolling roster, so machines actually don't stop. Some farms prefer to stop for 1 day a week, but we just run a rolling roster. So we've got an extra 1 or 2 people to cover those positions when those people are away. So the amount of machines we've got, we usually got 1 to 2 people off every day. So you just have 1 or 2 extra staff. And
it probably just helps anyway, because there's always more to do during harvest. Well, hopefully there's more to do during harvest. There's always extra things, extra breakdowns. So having extra staff is always going to be a bonus. What would you say to those people that are thinking, I don't have time, it's okay for them, they're corporate, I'm just running a small business? Yeah,
I get where they're coming from when they say that. But my comeback to them is always, it doesn't matter how many people you got working for you, you want to see them home safe. And it starts with at the top with the owner. It doesn't cost them a single thing to start doing jobs safely themselves. 0 financial input just to do the job safely. You don't need the flashiest, newest gear. You just need to operate in a safe manner. Yeah, most farmers have got pretty good gear these days. You don't see too many really rough old machines kicking around. So it's just a matter of starting themselves, setting that example to their staff and to their children that they're running a safe operation, and it will flow down through the team.
Everything that you're saying makes sense. I still just feel like, and I agree, I just feel like at harvest and at these crazy times of year, sometimes there can be that it's an excuse of, no, we just don't have time. We don't have time. And I know I'm harping on this, but everyone's rushing around and you're saying, just do this, just do that, set an example, just do it. But they don't have time, Jono.
Yeah, as I said earlier, though, I find if you make the time, efficiencies come. If you're rushing around and always trying and hurry to get to the next job, you find things break, things happen, things go wrong, things get missed, and that's when you lose time and then you're further behind. Where if you've got a good plan in place and it's organised and safe, you'll find machines are just constantly rolling at a steady speed all day. Yeah, there's not the rushing around, someone tripping over, hurting themselves, or trying to lift a trailer in a hurry and hurting their back, and next thing they're out of action for a few days because their back's gone, or they've jammed their hand or cut their leg, and then no trips to the doctors and things like that, because everyone's they come to work, they work their shift, and then they go home safely.
And do you feel like that having a focus on safety, you're saying it's more efficient, but does it also have an effect on how people show up to work and how they feel when they come to work, and staff retention, things like that?
Yeah, I reckon it does. It's me personally, like previous jobs I've been in, they were very unsafe compared to Warakirri, and I don't think I'd ever go back to that situation where you're working 20 hours in a day and climbing silos in the middle of the night, or filling augers and things like that. And for me, it's that peace of mind knowing that myself and my staff will all go home safe at the end of the day. And
that feel good too, because I know when you come to work and you're tired, you're going to bring that kind of grumpy mood to work too, aren't you?
Yeah, very much. Going back to our fatigue management, having rosters, staff know when their next day off's coming, and it gives them that time to break if they want to play footy or they want to play tennis or go to school events or something. We can roster around that, and it really gives them that work-life balance a lot better.
That is a really good point. How else are you constantly keeping safety in focus?
It's just talked about generally. Like, we've put the culture there that when someone approaches any job, the first thing they're thinking of is, how do I do this job safely? Not how quick do I get it done, how do I do it safely? Just to go back to the opening statement, for me, it's just getting people home safe, looking after each other and making sure no one wants to... We've had too many fatalities in this region in the last 12, 24 months, and don't need to see it. A lot of them can be avoided very easily.
Okay, so if you were talking to a farmer coming into harvest and they don't do any of this stuff, where would you say they should start?
First thing is, it's not that hard. Just keep it simple. You don't need to go to the nth degree at the start. Just start with the simple stuff. Like the inductions are very simple written document to show that you've shown them around the farm and you've shown them the machinery. You don't need to run all the apps if you don't want to, but just keep it simple and start with the little things.
And then I suppose also making sure that you're doing that as well. So you're showing them that you're following the rules as well.
It's not, this is how you drive the machine, but I drive it this way. We all operate it the same way.
Yep. So leading by example. And then next you would probably say getting all those different things in for the vapour and the confined spaces. And can you find those things online?
Yeah, there's a lot of things like SWPs I've talked about, and MSDSs, the medical safety data sheets. They're all online, and a lot of these people that are selling these apps and running farm safety courses, they can easily point you in the right direction. And even Google, you'll find them on Google. Very easy to find when you start looking.
Yeah, and then thinking about having a fatigue management strategy in place and then slowing down. I think they're probably the main things that you've said.
Yep, taking that break when you can. Can't stress enough if you've had some big days, like keep an eye on your staff and just when you can, give them that break, keep them fresh. I think in these long periods of time. One thing we've done, which I know a lot of people do though, is supplying one meal a day, and we all eat that together during harvest, get around a header or a chaser bin or a mother bin, depending on where we are in the paddock. Just stop for 20 minutes and all have half an hour, have that, get them out of the cab, freshens them up, has a bit of talk, put some food in them, and then go again for an evening shift. I think the biggest one is just get them out of the cab, walking around, and get them looking at their gear a bit too. They can walk around the machine, have a look to see that everything's still running well, and then have a bit of a toolbox meeting if we need to. We can discuss a few things while everyone's eating.
If you love the podcast and would like to show your support, please rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcasts and share it with your friends. We'll catch you again soon.
BCG drives the prosperity of Australian farmers, communities and landscapes through applied research, innovation and events. To find out more about what we're up to, our team and events near you, visit bcg.org.au. BCG acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present.